I just wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about all things impact at the firm. And this is, I'm looking forward to this, no disrespect to my investment colleagues, but I'm looking forward to this panel as much as anything. We spent most of the day today talking about growth, and you've heard up and down the line the importance of culture and how our unique culture is actually part of the special sauce that drives the firm forward. Nothing demonstrates our culture and how we live our values and how we use our influence and our position in the economy to drive change and have impact in our communities. Here we are coming out, we hope, of the pandemic, but we took the opportunity that was presented to us by COVID to really sit as a firm in a very active, collaborative way and say, who are we? Why do we do what we do? What do we stand for? Who benefits from the work that we do? And can we actually approach the investment business that is so core to who we are with a deeper sense of purpose and a deeper sense of service and shared values? And I think the resounding answer from everybody that works here was, yes, we can absolutely do that. And we've been spending the better part of the last 18 months really operationalizing the way that we think about impact across the entire Ares platform. So all of the rigor that we bring to our investment business in terms of business building and the intentionality and the scalability and the operational framework, we're doing the same in impact. We think in order to have the success that we want to have in stakeholder engagement and impact, we have to approach this the same way. We have to say we need a firm-wide, collaborative, holistic view on what impact means and how we operationalize and scale it. And so I am just so thrilled to introduce all of you to my three partners here, Adam Heltzer, who is our head of ESG, Indhira Arrington, who is our chief DEI officer, and Michelle Armstrong, who is our head of philanthropy, to just give you a sense of some of the exciting things that we have going on across the impact spectrum. So, Adam, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. So excited to be here. You know, if I were to present this slide 5 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I probably would have raised an eyebrow or two in this audience. But today, this is the new ESG consensus. It's taken as a given. And we feel that consensus on a 360-degree basis. You, our shareholders, are for the first time asking for standalone, deep dive conversations about our ESG program. Our LP base across every region are accelerating their own ESG programs, hiring dedicated teams, setting up engagements, asking for meaningful and measurable progress. Our portfolio companies and assets, they're coming to us to help them accelerate their own ESG programs. And importantly, in the war for talent, our current and prospective employees have very specific ideas about the kind of company they want to work for. So the question then becomes for us, how do you continue to build an ESG program that maximizes impact and maximizes value? I love ESG programs. I do it every day. I talk to CEOs about ESG programs across regions, across industries. And so in talking about Ares' ESG program, and specifically in the investment management industry and specifically for alts, there were 3 things that we think really set us apart. The first is simple. It's the reporting line. ESG can sit a lot of places: investor relations, public affairs, compliance. But you have to erase any doubt that ESG is a strategic priority. It's an important signal internally and externally. And so for us, we've made it a CEO reporting line, something that we rarely see in our industry. The second is the resource model. ESG integration is always going to be limited if it consists of my team handing out checklists to investment professionals and saying, please fill this out. So we've taken a very different approach at Ares. Yes, we charted a vision. We said, this is our responsible investment policy. Here's why we do this. It creates value, mitigates risk. It's the right thing to do. But then I went to all of my colleagues who have been on this stage today, and I said, we need to mobilize 8 to 12 people embedded in your teams across regions, functions, and ranks. and ask them to create a program. What's important to them? And the third, which may seem quite intuitive, but actually is quite rare, is that we have to be a role model for sustainable business practices ourselves. In other words, if we have such high conviction that ESG is a value creation driver in portfolio companies, a mitigant of risk, we have to demonstrate that same high conviction ourselves in the way that we run our business. This second part is so important, so it's worth double-clicking on. The idea is that in our own corporate sustainability program, if we kind of lead by example, understanding our most material ESG topics, DEI, climate change, cybersecurity, and we act with purpose and ambition to improve performance, we take that same experience, that same intellectual property, and we scale it to our platform, a platform which, as you've seen, is growing rapidly. And that's exciting. That's a huge potential impact we can have on the world. And what we're discovering every week is that a range of different kinds of companies and assets come to us. We have the credibility of a practitioner. We're a scaled and well-resourced platform. In terms of more tangible results and impact, one core concept of sustainability best practice is just simple transparency. And we took a big step forward in this area this past May by publishing our first annual sustainability report, where we gave the full range of ESG disclosures that you all use and ESG ratings agencies use to evaluate us, but also went through details of each of our material topics, what was achieved in the past 12 months, and what we're trying to do in the next 12. Around the same time, we published a thought leadership piece on ESG and direct lending, an asset class that has been historically underappreciated and frankly underutilized as a driver of meaningful change in companies. In that paper, we foreshadowed the emergence of ESG-linked loans, an interesting new structure where you can actually create carrots and sticks to improve ESG performance. And I'm thrilled to say this past Monday, we announced we had closed the world's largest ever ESG private credit financing to an existing portfolio company, RSK, in the UK. On climate change, you heard Scott talk about our infrastructure and power platform moving into the climate space. We're also carbon neutral in our own operations. And this coming May, we're going to publish our first TCFD-line climate change strategy, something that you all are very interested in. And finally, in an industry where human capital is so critical to our success, I'm very proud to work at Ares, a place that's been certified by Great Places to Work, with 91% of our US employee base saying they love working at Ares. No doubt due in some measure to how we've been successful in infusing mission, meaning, and purpose into our daily work. And with that, I'd like to pass it to my colleague and friend Indhira Arrington to talk about DEI, really an exemplar of how we lead by example in the corporate, but then scale to the investment platform. Indhira.
Thank you so much, Adam. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank Adam. As Adam so clearly articulated, at Ares, we view ESG and DEI as strategic pillars that span both our corporate sustainability and our responsible investment philosophy. At Ares, DEI is business critical because we know that diverse perspectives lead to better decision making, which leads to innovation and greater return on investments for us, our portfolio companies, and our investors. To that end, over the past several years, we have been strategically focused on embedding DEI in all of our operations. Because we know, as Mike said this morning, that we need to continue to win the war for talent, and that DEI drives employee motivation and satisfaction. Job seekers, 40% of them will turn down a job because of a perceived lack of inclusion. And as Tony said, we don't want to just recruit great people, we want to keep them. And employees are more likely to stay at a company that they feel is equitable and that is actually driving racial equality. But more importantly, we know, the business case has been done, that DEI leads to outperformance. Ethnically and gender diverse companies outperform their counterparts and lead to better overall outcomes. To that end, our DEI framework and strategy aspires to harness the power of difference to be a force for good and contribute to the long-term success of Aries, the companies in which we invest, and the communities in which we operate. Our framework is 3 pillars. It's our people and culture. How are we going to attract, develop, engage, and advance our own people and culture? It's our business and investment process. How are we going to operationalize DEI within Aries to truly be able to run it like a business? Our investment decisions. How are we driving DEI into our due diligence processes and our own procurement functions? And last but not least, our communities. How are we continuing to be a great corporate citizen and contributing to the communities that we operate in? Through our industry partnerships, for example. We are a founding member of the ILPA Diversity in Action Initiative, and Mike, our CEO, has signed the CEO Diversity in Action Pledge. Both allow us to not only share best practices in our industry, but also learn from others so that we can continue to improve. It's our corporate partnerships. What are the organizations that we are supporting and partnering with that are doing the great work of DEI in the ground? And finally, our philanthropy. As Michelle will demonstrate, we are looking for ways to magnify the impact that we have with our philanthropic dollars from a DEI lens. At the core of our framework is to be able to make data-driven decisions, set goals, and hold ourselves accountable through KPIs. Because we know that what gets measured gets done. There's no better example of how to bring our framework to life than Operation Amplified DEI. As Adam said, we want to be a leader in this space. We want to lead by example. But at the same time, we also want to bring along those that we can bring along with us. So we actually decided to create best-in-class strategic plans for DEI, but bring along with us a core group of our PE portfolio companies. To that end, we hired a premier consulting firm that helped us go through as a cohort through in-depth assessment, DEI infrastructure assessment. Do we have the infrastructure that it takes to truly drive DEI? And where are we from a maturity perspective with our DEI strategy? The diversity assessment. Where is our representation? How do we know where our gaps are? How are we able to set goals if we truly do not understand where we sit today? And then finally, an inclusion assessment that truly allowed us to understand how our employees are experiencing the organization by diversity dimension. Being able to go through this process as a cohort allowed us to create multi-year strategic plans with specific goals and KPIs. But also, I was able to personally review and work with our deal teams on the assessments and the strategic plans of our portcos to ensure that we were upskilling them to drive the accountability with their leadership teams and drive board engagement from a diversity perspective. And finally, doing it as a cohort also allowed us to create a cross-company council that allows us to share best practices, celebrate wins, and problem solve together. And we will continue to support our portfolio companies through the next stage, the execution stage, to ensure that we're driving accountability and that we're able to amplify DEI. Talk about the power of the platform. So finally, I'd want to end with how proud we are of what we have accomplished so far, but also acknowledge that we're humble in knowing that there's a lot more work to be done. And to those that much is given, much is expected. And we are committed to driving change because our aspiration is to be a leader and advocate for DEI in our industry and in all of our spheres of influence. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my distinguished colleague, Michelle, who's going to walk us through philanthropy.
Well, thank you, Indhira. Thank you, Adam, and good morning to all of you. To talk a little bit about philanthropy and to give you a sense of who we are and what we're doing for Aries and for our global community. As my colleagues discussed this morning, our focus on ESG and DEI helps to reflect our purpose-driven culture as a firm. But in addition, our staunch commitment to philanthropy helps us drive toward our intended societal impact, even as we deliver value to our team members and to our stakeholders. Our three-pronged approach to philanthropy helps to further demonstrate our core values in action. This past June, we launched the Aries Charitable Foundation to help accelerate equality of economic opportunity for people globally. And we do this through a set of key funding priorities: career preparation and reskilling, entrepreneurship, and personal finance. Aries in Motion, or as we call it, AIM, is our signature employee engagement program through which we offer volunteer opportunities for our team members to give back to the communities where we do business. In addition, AIM provides a platform that allows our team members to donate to the causes that matter most to them, and then we, in turn, can match those donations. And corporate contributions allow us as a firm to respond to some of the most pressing issues of our time, issues like COVID, youth education, and social justice. Our philanthropy at Aries allows us to be an exemplar to both our industry peers as well as to the broader philanthropic sector, because we are reimagining what it means to do good. You know, we don't just want to follow best practices when it comes to philanthropy. We want to set the standard when it comes to grant making, employee engagement, and corporate contributions. And our efforts and the results of those efforts to date help to make that clear. So take, for example, grant making. Aries is committing a percentage of its profits from a select group of funds to charity, and it's making that happen through our foundation. In addition, our team members are deeply invested in the foundation's success and have pledged over $30 million, over the next 5 years to help support our grant making and our operations. Employee engagement. In 2020, we saw more than 300 team members volunteer over 1,800 hours. And our team members' donations to charity allowed us to match those donations by in excess of $500,000. And then let's talk about corporate contributions. Last year, we donated more than $6 million for causes like COVID, supporting hospitals and medical workers around the globe, as well as the employee relief programs of our portfolio companies. And we donated dollars to nonprofits that deliver programming centered around youth education, DEI, and social justice. And I would be remiss if I failed to mention the fact that Aries Pathfinder Fund is what we believe to be the first institutional private investment fund to utilize a predefined structure to make a substantial commitment to charity. And now to talk a little bit about how we do philanthropy at Aries. You know, we recognize that right here, right now, we have a tremendous pipeline opportunity. And while our foundation only launched this past June, my colleagues and I have worked behind the scenes to launch what is now known as Alt Finance, Investing in Black Futures. This particular initiative is channeled through our foundation because it aligns with our focus on career preparation and reskilling. Specifically, it supports learners at historically Black colleges and universities with the intent to diversify the alternative asset management industry. Spearheaded by Aries, we are incredibly proud that our friends and our colleagues at Apollo and Oaktree have joined us to invest $90 million over the next 10 years in alt finance. Specifically, alt finance delivers a virtual institute for learners, helping students at HBCUs be able to learn about the alternative asset management industry, and any student at any HBCU can participate in it. And we are so pleased to say that the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania is designing this institute for us. Alt Finance also delivers a mentored fellowship program that we are designing right now in partnership with Management Leadership for Tomorrow. And this particular fellowship program will be in collaboration with 4 HBCUs, Clark Atlanta University, Howard University, Morehouse College, and Spelman College. Not only will Alt Finance Fellows have access to one-on-one professional coaching, but they will also have access to scholarship funds. And then our 3 firms, Ares, Apollo, and Oaktree, have committed to provide internship and career opportunities for those young students who participate in Alt Finance. And we're happy to say that our industry peers have also stepped up and said that they too are willing to do the same. For us, Alt Finance is about more than simply diversifying the alternative asset management industry. It's about making certain that that pool of talent that enters our industry is poised for success. And concurrently, it has and it will continue to allow us to inspire and to encourage and to motivate our industry peers to not only join this effort, but to stand up similar initiatives, even as we at Ares continue to model what we believe truly meaningful philanthropy looks like. And I'll now turn the stage back to Mike.
Thank you, guys. It's powerful. We always talk about the alignment of our investment activities with the impact that we can have. And hopefully not lost on anybody here is not just our commitment to lead, but how we're able to structurally not just embed our impact into our investment activities, but then have the value that we create through those investments fuel the growth in our impact initiatives. So this holistic approach and this alignment of our purpose with our investment activities, we think is a real recipe for success. So thank you guys for all the great work. One thing I heard them say here, and other times I just want to raise as well, is we want to lead by example. We want to be ambitious here the way that we're ambitious everywhere else, but it's important in everything we do that we lead with humility. And I think that the way that you guys are approaching these activities is a perfect demonstration of that. So thank you, guys.